just to finish off now the presentation, we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities and risks. Clearly, most people would argue that they're expecting demand to grow by 5% per annum. That's the sort of typical number that industry experts would suggest that we should expect to see the zinc demand going up. One of the interesting things with respect to zinc is that we do, as noted, we do have some very large producers. And there are some very well-publicised mine closures going to happen in the next few years. So we're going to see the situation where a number of mines that have been producing zinc for quite a long time are going to close. There is also new projects that are going to come on stream. So the interaction between the exact closure and the exact startup is going to then influence the supply demand and the amount of material in stocks and ultimately the price. This is an indication that, or just showing you the comparison between, unfortunately they're very close to the same colour, but here is the zinc price in the darker colour and here is the stocks. And you can see there that there's a very broad general correlation that when the stocks and the inventory are high, the zinc price is lower. Doesn't always go that way, but there's a general trend there. The last thing to think about before we finish is that there's always the option and the possibility of substitution. And zinc is substituted for by others. So aluminium and plastics can substitute for galvanized steel. Aluminium alloys, cadmium, paint, plastics can replace zinc coatings. Aluminium, magnesium can compete with zinc for die casting, and a whole range of different elements can substitute for zinc in chemicals, electronic and pigment uses. So there's a whole interaction. If the zinc price goes up too high, suppliers and demanders and producers start to substitute. If the zinc price comes back down again, then they'll get rid of that substitution and start to revert back to using zinc. So it's a very complex interaction.
For the 5% of the CAGR, which you show on the chart there, there's some, I've myself made a lot of research. It's also saying that the CAGR will exceeding 5% or just recently because of the urbanizations or modernizations. Previously was still stay at like couple of years ago, 1.5%, 2 point something, and then 3.9 last year. So it was a projections of like 5% of the compounded annual growth rate. What is your opinion on these things? It will exceed more than that, or will still stay all the time with this figure, or will go down one day, you know? Because that is going to actually trigger a more demanding, higher demand for this metal in the future, right?
Excellent question, Paxton. If I could answer the question, I wouldn't be sitting here working. I would be sitting on the beach enjoying my retirement. So exactly. Those figures that I presented were based on the demand expectations from two quite reputable forecasting companies.
Yes.
So I think they're as reasonable as any estimate going forward. I think that one of the things that I have learnt in my experience is that forward projections of anything, whether they're currency, metals prices, the number of Mercedes-Benz in Singapore, whatever they are, whenever you try to make long-term predictions, you will get it wrong on a year-by-year basis,
yes,
without a doubt. So we've just seen in the last few weeks a lot of volatility going on in the share market and various other places around the world. So that, that could result in a change in emphasis, and the companies that we just saw predicting 5% growth in zinc change their mind and drop it back to 3% or whatever. So I really don't know, and we rely on these sorts of companies because they have access to a lot more information than companies like AMC do. So I really would like to hope that it stays at 5% because it's a fairly strong demand growth. But I certainly would not like to make a prediction based on my own knowledge because I will be wrong.